Do androids dream of electric sheeple? More importantly, do politicians have a sense of humiliation? Do you think politicians are sheeple themselves, or are they indeed androids? You know, some of the bogarts we have for senators and the goblinoids we have for descocrats look kind of placid in appearance to me. You never ever stop to notice that these servitors of the state actually have nothing interesting to say. All just as well to have an augmented virtual reality person or whatever, a hologram talking to us. Might even liven things up a bit to have a dancing hot mama made of electrolyte, or a tall, dark, and handsome gentleman addressing the public in place of these grisly goons of the globalist and feeble geezers reciting the endless rhetoric of times no longer applicable to our contemporary world. But enough of this merriment. Let's roll on to psionics already. Do you feel overwhelmed with every person's opinion, ringing in your ears, haunting your dreams in the hours that you should be peacefully sleeping, drifting in the black gulf, surrounded by beauties and riches in the astral dream world? Does it seem like folks make a snap judgment of your alignment to a particular party, your character, without even bothering to listen to your response to their ridiculous questions? Makes you want to do the old Jedi mind trick. Wave your hand before that person's gaze and say, "You want to go home and rethink your life?" Well, I've certainly run into people who do ask these out-of-the-blue questions. Hey, you're a Republican, now you're a Democrat. Before I can answer, they tell me what I am. And when I parry their statement with the simple question, what makes you think so? What makes you say that? I'm rewarded with the usual muggle answer that is often that the other person does not possess a clue as to why he or she thought so. I mean, there's no bumper sticker on my car. I don't have any sticker that says Biden sucks, Trump sucks. None of that. Though I have been tempted to get that Cthulhu for president sticker before, but I digress. This happens now and then, and it is something I refer to as the bad old snap judgment. And snap judgments are made by folks we call snappers. What's a snapper? Well, you may very well ask, and I'm going to tell you all about it. A snapper is a person who acts upon impulse. Yes, muggles. And the diabolical television breeds them like vermin in a haystack. Would you like to have peace of mind? There is nothing like a nice reprieve from the sheeple out there. I find my peace of mind by rolling my third eye back into the primordial stage and looking inward, back into eons past of inner peace and cosmic balance, before all this muggle mischief. Would you like to do the same? But perhaps you do not have time to train in my club? Well, shame on you. Well, no, not really. Don't be so hard on yourself. Perhaps you would like to possess an object with instructions for attaining inner peace endarkenment, taking you back to the tranquil and comfort stage of primordial pools of life, ebbing and flowing with the quiet preceding the rise of primitive man into modern flesh bipeds. Yeah, we can affectionately call ourselves flesh bipeds. Well, folks, ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies, you do have to cultivate a certain sense of humor. I mean, after all, if you take life so seriously, you will be tugged at by the strings of the globalist with their narratives. All of this stuff is available to read about in the DARPA white papers I'm in. Yes, but I digress. If you would like to come into possession of some kind of an object with instructions that would give you this peace of mind, I might work on this project for you. No promises just yet, but it is something I'm considering. Lords and ladies, gentlemen, good people, and, well, not so good people, but you can send me a message on my contact page, Vrilock.com/contact. Nothing could be simpler. And I'll take your name and consider your request for such an item. Now, I use something myself, an item for my personal endeavors in psionics, on a weekly, if not daily basis. I do so try every day. The true peace and silence of the Black Gulf awaits me even tonight after I'm done with my work here. And there is nothing like a good old, the primordial realms of power in abundance and absolute peace. Away from the noise of the world. It is getting so crowded out there, is it not? Flooded with so many opinions, you can't hear yourself think, can you? Well, I sympathize, but I'll do more than sympathize. I'm going to give you solutions. So, Vrilock.com/contact. And while you're at it, start learning psionics right now. My ebook, Keep the Magic High, at Vrilock.com/shop, and get started. While we're here in the physical realm, ladies and gentlemen, and dealing with society, I believe we need to also master some mind tools for identifying what it is that we are seeing on the big screen, the vast stretch of virtual channels and social media reels. I do so hope it crashes one day. Well, maybe not too soon. I'm on some of those reels myself. Not the big ones, but many of the smaller ones. I go into a state of mind like the Native Americans, the shaman, the power of the indigenous and primitive peoples of the world. There's this river of thought in the astral realms in the dreamland, and upon asking my question there, the singularity drifts over to me on this astral fluid cloud, and I am rewarded with a clear answer, and I must admit, that's a nice reprieve from the garble and chatter of information outlets on the physical plane of society. What I have discovered is this. In that realm of the primitive, the answer comes to me to look at the world speakers, the world stage, and attempt to detect their sense of possible humility. We can draw comparisons, perhaps, from old-school presidents, Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, and then look at the desk bureaucrats, C-SPAN, MSM, and our current and past presidencies. Perhaps we could do that, or we could meditate on the primordial protocol as I've described. But what I see today, and even in the past years before today, is humanoids who have a certain aspect of placidity about their persona and manner of presentation. The connection is missing. I see rhetoric. Perhaps we're looking at a person, or maybe we're looking at an android, starting to sound like a Philip K. Dick novel. Yes, well, Philip K. Dick's writings of fiction have become prophecy. It could be that we have set foot on the shores of a future world whereat we have now arrived at the so-called better than human. You know, the globalist concept of transhuman that the technocrats running the big electric puppet theater are so proud of. The IBM Watson. Google Garble. One day, and possibly one day very soon, we shall see shortly, the difference between robots and people will be nearly indistinguishable. Think they haven't tried it yet? Think again. You know, sometimes we see stories, articles, and videos wherein the dates of certain events are too important to pass up. We see a person, an important person, speaking in India, talking to the PM or president, and at that same time, that very same person is so said to be also in Washington, D.C. at a round table at the same time. Ask yourself, how is it that that individual can be in two places at the same time or within such a short amount of time? Are they stepping into portals? Are they replicants? You know, androids from right out of the film of Blade Runner? You know, that film Blade Runner was influenced by the writings of Philip K. Dick, specifically his book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? It's a good book. You might want to read it sometime. You know, I have an old saying that I believe in, that any detail which forces a question is worthy of remembrance. Keep that in mind before you go out shamelessly to Twitter and social networks heralding some important person that you are immortalizing. Think for yourself. Take some time to reflect. With that having been said, there's enough opinion and strongly felt conviction in the world to make you feel as if you can no longer hear your own mind. You can't hear your own thoughts. And that is a rather bad position to be in. But do not despair. With psionics, we can instantly enter a state of inner peace and begin consulting the cosmic powers for assistance in our lives. Why spend, years, decades becoming a yogi when you can use psionics and still live a normal life? You don't have to go running around with a huge long beard down to your ankles. I mean, I'm not saying you can't. If you like to do that sort of thing, that's cool. But we don't have to. We can look as normal as we want to look and still be powerful psionic wizards. Right now, you must avoid the insanity which plagues the world of today. I often find myself confronted by people who refuse to think for themselves. They love being controlled because being a victim of the powers that be is something people can do without effort. And when so annoyed by these muggles, I feel like reaching up to the sky with clenched fist and shouting, "Must I be interrupted at every turn? Drats! Foiled again!" Seriously though, in regard to politics, religion, and all the information outlets encompassing our daily lives, have we now entered a reality wherein we find ourselves surrounded by leaders who have no sense of remorse or humiliation for what they are doing? That is indeed a scary place to be, but do not be afraid. Do not fear. Do not despair. Life is an arena. and the challenge of the wizards is staged before you. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz. Did you know, in that film, for people who actually saw that film, the original Wizard of Oz, or I think it was the one in color that I'm referring to, that Dorothy, in order to enter the Emerald City, she had to wear a pair of green eyeglasses or green sunglasses. Well, they left that part of the film out. In other words, what the screenwriter was attempting to convey with the viewer, which means you and me, is that we have to learn to shift our sense of vision in order to see reality. You are a psionic power student, a would-be psychic warrior. I have a few things for you to make you uber psychically powerful. I've been at this for 40 years. So, it is your turn in the big game of life. What's your move? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our merry little gathering in the hallowed hours of the evening. And I want to thank you for joining me again tonight on Planet Vrilock Psionics Podcast. And until next time we meet up, as always, keep the magic high. This is Tom Vrilock, signing out.